We could play a game. It's almost kind of like name that tune, but instead, name that player. Name that player who says he hopes to remain a 49er.
Yeah.
But it's a business.
Yeah. Probably Deebo Samuel.
It's a business.
Yeah.
Always I like to stick around. I feel like it's a good team. They love me here. I love it here. Love all the coaches, love my teammates. But, I just let my agent handle it. That's the business side of things. I'm just do my job, go out there and ball, put the pressure on them. Hopefully they give me a bag. If they don't, I know it won't be like any bad blood in between me and them. It's just like, it'll be a business decision. But I'm pretty sure they'll like to have me, and I'd like to stay here for sure.
Who that?
It's got to be Deebo Samuel.
It's not Deebo Samuel.
Brandon Ayuk?
This is what Deebo Samuel sounds like.
At the end of the day, contract was signed. I know what I signed up for, and we just focus on this year.
A little bit of a different voice.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Was that Brandon Ayuk?
Nope.
I mean.
This is fun. We should have hit the game show music.
Well, it's not. I mean, I know who it's not. Is it?
It's quicker if we play Who Is It?
Mooney Ward?
Say hello to Mooney Ward.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to stick around. I feel like it's a good team. They love me here. I love it here. Love all the coaches, love my teammates. But, I just let my agent handle it. That's the business side of things. I'm just do my job, go out there and ball, put the pressure on them. Hopefully they give me a bag. If they don't, I know it won't be like any bad blood in between me and them. It's just like, it'll be a business decision. But I'm pretty sure they'll like to have me, and I'd like to stay here for sure.
Right.
I'm laughing for two reasons. One, did you hear him say, I love it here. I love my coaches. I love my teammates. I love being a 49er. So let's
go back to the Kyle Shanahan conversation.
The other thing that's funny, though, is the normalization sensation that has happened in pro sports in the last few years. Guys just openly in press conferences talking about getting a bag.
Yeah.
It just strikes me as funny. Hopefully I get a bag.
Major bag alert.
Major, yeah. Yeah. He would like to get a bag. He also admitted that he's kind of been playing hurt for like 4 years.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that's football. I think he thinks he's got another gear, though, that he hasn't been able to even show us.
Yep. He's only 29, and he actually just turned 29 recently, a couple of weeks ago. And his cap hit this year is 18.4, and then that's about it as far as guaranteed money. So he's looking for that bag, and there's no doubt. And he knows that they need him or they need somebody like him.
Pretty good bag to come here. Pretty good bag.
Yeah.
Pretty good. What was the contract to come here?
3-year, $40 million.
Okay.
With $18 million guaranteed at signing.
Right, but he's going to play the whole deal.
He's going to play it out.
So he's going to get all that money.
He's going to get it.
Yeah.
And then, you're looking at being 29, though, as a corner, and you're thinking, all right, one more contract. If I can get one more.
If you're lucky.
Well, 2 or 3 year deal. I mean, one more contract. This is not baseball where he's getting 8 years and $140 million.
Correct. And
could he get another $25 million guaranteed?
I mean, we talk about the running backs and the way that when they turn 30, boom, it's just like a hose that gets turned off. And I do feel like if there's another position you could compare it to, it is cornerback. That to me is the next one where I've watched guys overnight seemingly. It's like you are awesome. And then you can't cover. And it happened between February and August. We watched it happen to Richard Sherman. We watched it happen live on TV. I'm like, oh my God, he's done.
Yep.
Done. You know who was another great example? And maybe this is unfair because part of this is just your system that you're in or whatever. But you know who was awesome? And I mean awesome. And it was almost his last name, in fact. He was so awesome. Is Nnamdi Asomugha.
Asomugha, yeah.
He was so good with the Raiders. And he had that big deal to go to the Eagles. And he was so bad, so fast. Done. Overnight. I worry about someone like Charvarius Ward, who's already talking about having issues with his back and different things as he approaches age 30. Yeah. He's going to have to play really, really well.
Nnamdi doing okay for himself.
Fine. Just fine.
He married Kerry Washington, the actress. Mm-hmm. So, I think that they're able to make their mortgage payments through it all.
I do as well.
His paycheck and her paycheck. So Nnamdi landed on his feet pretty well, but Mooney Ward is an interesting one because right now, as it sits, he's a pretty important member of that defensive
incredibly important
structure. But you're right. I mean, you get to 30, 31, 32, and I hope he gets his bag too because I love having him here with the 49ers.
Well,
but
and they're like on the low, they're getting ready for his not departure, but they're prepared for it. You know, they grab a corner in the second round. I know they love Luter. They love Luter. He's coming up. He may be the opposite starter this year. That's the way you've got to run these organizations, is you've got to constantly be ready with someone younger and cheaper when it's time for someone else to move on. And it's cutthroat and it's brutal. But, you know, Deebo Samuel to Ricky Pearsall, Charvarius Ward to Renardo Green. I mean, we'll see how he plays, but like, you have to be prepared for that at all times. It's just a reality, again, especially when you're about to break off 50 to 60 large for your leader.
Yeah, it becomes more important that you draft replacements for guys who you may not want to pay, or you may want to pay them, but you may not be able to pay them as you go forward. You mentioned Ricky Pearsall, and if he shows himself as legit this year, well, it makes it easier to move off of Deebo and thank him for his time. And, you know, you've got younger receivers, cheaper receivers, and you could make that work at that position. And the same thing happens at corner, and the same thing will happen at left tackle whenever Trent Williams decides that he wants to hang it up, or when you decide that you can't afford it, and George Kittle at tight end, and all the way around the offense. And that's what makes the Christian McCaffrey restructure, or the extension rather, even more interesting, because they said to Christian basically, 2 more years, we fully believe in you. We're not going to worry about Garendo or anybody else replacing you. They might augment you, but you're our guy for 2 more years. We believe in you.
Yeah, at least. And if you can show that at age 30, you're still ready to ride, we can keep going after that. And, you know, oddly, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, this is one we haven't played yet. Take a listen to this. Because there's been all the talk about the running back market, and this quote unquote, air quotes, resets the market.
Right.
If it ever happens.
Yeah.
But here's something I got to ask you. All right. So $19 million per year, starting 3 years from now, if we get there, and if the 49ers choose to do it, do you think when we get there, that will still be the highest paid AAV for a running back in the league?
I'm going to surprise you and say yes. I do think so.
I don't think that's surprising at all. That's what I thought you'd say.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Wow. I think so because the running back market has flattened out, and not only has it flattened out, it's dropped. And I think about the future of the position, and I don't like the future of the position. I don't think that you're going to have any team go to a running back reliance like. And I always think about Pittsburgh when they had Le'Veon Bell, or as my son Quest would call him when he was winning our fantasy league at 14, LaDavion Bell. I don't know why he thought it was LaDavion. It became family humor. So I always think about LaDavion, and I have to correct myself knowing that it's Le'Veon. But what they did to Le'Veon Bell, and they did with Le'Veon Bell, I should say, more than 400 touches a year. They ran that man into the ground because it worked. Because that's what Pittsburgh did with the bus, and that's what they did with Le'Veon Bell. It was a winning formula. I don't see another team, and you could talk about Derrick Henry and what Tennessee did with and to Derrick Henry. He was the reason why they were competitive all those years, and now he gets to his 30th birthday, and they give him the Ariana Grande, the thank you next. So I don't think any team is going to look at running back and say, you know what, here we're going to give this guy, whether it's Saquon or Zeke, who we saw what happened to Ezekiel Elliott and any of the other young running backs. Teams are going to use them for 4 years, and then they're going to move on.
So mandatory camp is now officially open for the 49ers. David Lombardi is going to join us in the next hour. Christian McCaffrey gets a new contract extension. It is not a fully guaranteed or even mostly guaranteed deal at all. However, with the 2 years remaining on his deal, he has a few million tacked onto that. 2 more years, an extension beyond that. So now signed for 4 more years, but those are non-guaranteed years. But an acknowledgement also of Christian's importance and the play that he has had. Brandon Ayuk is officially now a holdout because what was going on before was voluntary. This is mandatory. Brandon is not there. Over the next 3 days, he stands to be fined well into six figures. However, the 49ers could wipe that clean if he ends up signing a new extension down the road. But that's where we are sort of like with the news of the day. But getting back to the running back market, it is really fascinating. I don't know if you can think about this at the youth level. I don't know how many parents sit there and think in high school, my kid's going to be in the NFL someday. Plus, the sport of football itself is so focused on today. No one stays in the moment. I know we're all supposed to do it. No one does a better job of it than football players. Because if they weren't staying in the moment, they'd get the hell off the field. If they realized what this life was going to be like when they were 60 years old, nobody would play. But it's just not the way that culture is wired. But think about this. If you really were looking ahead, my gosh, take your running back. Take that kid that the high school coach is like, well, this is my best player. So we want the ball in his hands, and we're making him our star running back. Go beg that coach. In fact, go tell that coach, my kid's off this team unless you move him to a different position. Or if that kid that gets recruited to college as athlete, as they now do, try any other position. Any other position. Do you realize that Mooney Ward, who we just heard from, is almost making as much as Christian McCaffrey? Mooney Ward.
Right.
Who's like a good corner. A top 15 corner.
Yeah.
But the idea that his contract is kind of side by side with Christian flipping McCaffrey, we did this a few weeks ago. How many running backs, and I know it's all funny money, but just the AAV that's on their deal, running backs who have an AAV that is north of 10 million, there are 5 of them.
I was going to say 8, but yeah.
5 in the entire league.
It's crazy.
It's McCaffrey, Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. And Barkley and Jacobs, who just got these deals, both of them are short-term and $12 million.
Right.
That's it. So, like, for the 49ers to do this and like, oh, it's $19 million a year for Christian and, you know, all the arguing that's happened in recent weeks about he deserves it and all this stuff.
Right.
Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be running backs.
Right.
You're right. Nobody's going to be making $20 million a year in 2 years at the running back position, not even close.
Even if you have somebody like Christian McCaffrey, which he is mostly one of one. Austin Eckler, I think, would be maybe the closest comp. Alvin Kamara is another guy who you could look at and say, okay, he's McCaffrey-esque. Yep. He doesn't carry it as much as McCaffrey. He catches it a little bit more often than Christian does. But to find a player on a winning team who has that impact and also has the ability to line up in the slot, you could put him out wide on occasion, and he blocks. And that's the thing about McCaffrey is, and we use the cliche all the time, and I can't wait to get into football season again and cliche you into submission with he's a football guy and 21 personnel and all the rest of the nonsense that we all throw out. But you watch McCaffrey play, and it's not just, oh, he's a good ball carrier or he's a good receiver. He is a do-it-all, I can do everything football player who steps up in the biggest moments and makes the biggest plays.
Well, I also think that Christian embodies something that the 49ers, and this is what I do, where I do really, really back them. This is kind of what they're all about. Like when we talk about them taking care of their own. Like we had somebody text the show a little bit ago and go, or maybe it was a tweet that I got, freaking Twitter. I don't even know. I don't know how much longer I can do it. I will because it's our job, but my God, it really feels like 80% of the people on Twitter just wait for whatever your words are, and then they just want to twist them into something else. Like someone came at me on Twitter with regard, and I think, Lucas, did you send this out? No, I sent it out. I said the 49ers, today is a great example, 49ers take care of their guys. It's rare that the top paid guy at a position gets even more. Yes, it's very well deserved for Christian McCaffrey, but the Niners deserve some credit too. That's what I wrote. So one of the respondents was, so when they let players walk because they don't want to pay them, is that also taking care of their guys? Mr. Spin Doctor?
Oh, Schmidt. Got you.
No.
You got served.
I sure did.
Is what happened right
Damn it,
there.
I hate when that happens. Got him.
Totally.
No, that does not mean they just pay everyone who's ever put on the jersey. It means when I say taking care of their guys is when you draft or sign or acquire a player and they play at a very, very high level, you take care of them. They want to reward you with another new deal. It does not mean they're supposed to just keep everyone whether they stink or not. And what Christian has done, maybe better than anyone I've seen in the Kyle Shanahan era, is feel like a homegrown player who's not. He's done that better than anyone. He feels like one of them. And the Niners have made that part of their business model, which is when guys sort of embody what the team is all about. Ayuk does this too, I think. Drafted player, and what no one will talk about. 1,300 yards. Talk about the way he blocks. He's a monster.
Right.
His attitude is on point after whatever they went through 3 years ago. He embodies what this team is all about, and the Niners want to take care of those people. And part of that is just the entertainment entity that they are. These are the type of people they want to present to you, the public. Christian McCaffrey has done a better job of anyone of being acquired from the outside and within a minute becoming one of those guys.
And it feels like he's from here because he went to Stanford, too, and we all remember his dad. His dad wasn't a Niner, but we all remember him from the NFL, and it feels like Christian McCaffrey has always been one of us here with the 49er faithful, and that's partly just the fact that he's from Stanford, but also the way he's ingratiated himself immediately when he joined the team. And so you're right, and John Lynch has said this time and time again, that he and Kyle's philosophy is when you draft a player and you like a player, you're going to keep that player. And they've done that with everyone other than DeForest Buckner, and we can re-adjudicate that all we want. And if it would have worked out differently with the player that they picked with that first-round selection that they got back from Indy, nobody would give a crap about it. But the fact that Javon Kinlaw has been less than stellar, you could call him a bust. I don't think that his race is completely run yet in the NFL, but for the Niners, yeah, it was a mistake.
It was a bust, yeah.
But had that happened in a different way, no one would have even cared about DeForest Buckner. And the same thing about, the Trey Lance conversation. If Brock Purdy never would have popped the way he did, we'd all be going at them on the daily, John and Kyle, about Trey Lance.
Doc Pandy again in 10 minutes. We'll get into Blake Snell and much, much more. How about Christian McCaffrey into his 30s with the usage? We'll get into all of that with Doc Pandia. David Lombardi is coming up next hour as well, live from camp. That's going to be an interesting conversation. No one understands the business model of the Niners, in my opinion, as well, or better than David. And so we'll get into that conversation. Your phone call's always welcome. Let's go to Paul in Oakland. Hi, Paul. What's going on? You're on with Willard and Dibs.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. So I'm a longtime high school football coach in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And I have a slightly different take and perspective relative to the money that's being paid to these positions. And I truly get how the game has morphed from being a running back-oriented game to a more open receiver-oriented game as the game evolves. My question is relative to McCaffrey, and it has to do with your guys' points about earning potential and all that. If Christian McCaffrey, does he have the skill set to be a NFL wide receiver? And if he does, would he be making the $14 million or so a year that he's being paid now, as he is configured and has his skill set translates? I don't think so. I think what gets him to that level of compensation is the fact that he is a running back, and he also has tremendous ball catching skills in certain elements of the game. But I don't think if he was a wide receiver, he might not be making what Javon Jennings makes.
It's a fair point. It's a very interesting way of looking at it for everybody who goes, you got to pay Christian as two players. Could he be a slot receiver in the NFL?
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah. He
probably could. Would he be elite? Would he be one of these top guys? Probably not. He's probably not big enough.
Well, think about Welker and Julian Edelman and what they did in a system with the quarterback. I think a lot of this, for me anyway, goes to exactly what we've talked about forever with Brock Purdy, which is system quarterback. Well, he's probably not a system quarterback, but in this system, he's pretty damn good. So what are we even talking about here?
But if Julian Edelman and Wes Welker were playing with Tom Brady today, would they be getting a Justin Jefferson or even an A.J. Brown type contract? I'd argue no.
Probably not.
No. Like, yes, Julian Edelman at times performed as a number one receiver, but it was never at the level, the downfield ability, the way to go one-on-one and just out-jump people, the physicality of it. That's what you're paying for. That's what you're paying for. Somebody who can average like what Brandon did last year that looked like, good Lord, is he going to average 20 yards per catch?
Right.
Like, that's not something those guys could do. So, yeah, I mean, that is a way to look at it. And also, in the end, all of it, I believe, becomes a little bit irrelevant. You know, could he be a wide receiver? Could he be paid like a wide receiver? The bottom line is he's not. So, like, even if he could complain, say that, hey, I catch a lot of passes, the bottom line in these negotiations is you're a running back. And the Niners, I think, are not paying him 2 more years because of skill set. They're paying him 2 more years because he's a phenomenal football player, and they both want to acknowledge, A, what he's done, and B, what they think he's going to do next.
And I think that's the big part of it is what he's going to do next. And I think if you had reservations about his durability, which he largely's put to rest since he became a 49er.
Don't say it too loud, but yeah.
Well, he has. And
no, he
has. Past tensed it. You know, you never know what the future holds. You mentioned it as a football player. Sure. Any snap could be your last, and you hope for the best for Christian McCaffrey. But I think the fact that he's done that in his brief time with the 49ers, he's been very durable, and he's been your number one target.